So as you're working through all this, at what point did looking at the training become a priority?
I mean, I was always trying to like figure out what could be the best way. When I was doing it, when I started, there was no program or anything that you could. We were all doing it, playing it by ear. We were all trying to figure it out as we went. We were all walking experiments. I mean, if you want to do it, become a bodybuilder. There's a million books. There's a million programs you can get online. You can do, if you want to become a powerlifter, there's programs you can follow. You can do this, linear periodization, left side, whatever you want to do. But for Strongman, there was absolutely no training. So like, I was like, all right, there has to be a best way to do this, right? And so I was always tweaking. I was always trying to figure it out. I mean, you have, it's kind of this is why I say you have to find what works best for you, because you have guys though that are anomalies that, okay, when we talk about like Marius, and I bring him up a lot because training wise, it doesn't make sense. People thought that he was just making this up. Like it wasn't real. He was just messing with people. It was real. He really trained this way.
For example,
he trained,
give me some.
He trained twice a day. Strongman events in the either evening or morning, and then weights in the later on, or in the morning, and then in the evening he would do weights, like a Olympic / bodybuilding style workout. But in the middle of that, he was doing cardio. In the middle of the day, he was doing. He treated it like he was a professional. So what he did was he treated the Strongman events as he was practiced as a sport.
Yeah,
like, I'm practicing these events. I'm not loading them up. We would load up as much as we possibly could and do one all-out, two all-out sets, and then maybe one. Whereas he's going maybe 70%, but doing 3 sets, 4 sets. So if by the end of he told me that he did yoke and deadlift 3 times a week. Like most people are going to do that maybe twice a month.
Yeah.
Like he would do that 3 times a week. So if you do the math, by the time the contest comes around, let's say Marius has trained yoke 100 times or whatever, and you've trained it, 8 times or 6 times. I mean, who's got the better, you know what I mean? He knew his body was ready for whatever, his conditioning. I watched this man when we went to Mohegan Sun Arena, which was one of the peaks of Strongman and my career and all that good stuff. But they had him as the tester for the events before the competition. Nobody in their right mind would even consider doing that. Like, you take a week or 2 off before the contest. I went down to the arena and looked at we went 8. I go down to the arena. Marius is running with the yoke back and forth. This is good. This is good. It's okay. He's literally picking up the car. This is a good weight. It's okay. He's going through the entire contest 3 or 4 times. And then he shows up an hour later and dominates the competition. Why? Because his training, he was used to it. He was used to doing, his father was an Olympic lifter. So in Olympic lifting, they're training day off, day before, doing real weights. And so he kind of took that thought process with him and did the events, did the weights. He'll do it the same day, the day before, it doesn't matter. And looking back, I mean, I always did better in longer contests. So if it went 2 or 3 days, I was better on the 2nd and 3rd day. So he might have knew what he was doing. Like, it primes you, get some kind of, I don't know what the term would be, but it primes you physically and mentally when you lift something. Right, and that's why, like Shaw, he would do 60% the day before, 40 to 60% day before. He just picked something up with it, rather than just total rest. And that's what a lot of European guys do. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but he trained differently from anyone and has the most success, maybe in World's Strongest Man at least, as opposed to Zavickas, who trained each thing once a week. He did a lot of volume though. It's very strange. Anyway, you have to find what works for you. I think when you're beginning though, you can now, thanks to my program, you can actually say, okay, I'm going to start with this. I've got something to try. Some kind of direction, which before there was no direction whatsoever.
Well, the one thing that makes sense about Marius that you were saying was the skill acquisition. Mm-hmm. Like if you're bringing the load down, right? So it's not going to be as physically taxing, but you're going to get in 800% more reps. Yep. That would make complete sense if the skill needs to be acquired.
Right.
Now, a lot of these skills, I don't want to say it's kind of like riding a bike, but a lot of these skills, once you kind of master that skill, you may not necessarily need it in all those frequent bouts.
Sure.
But when you're going maximum all the time, that skill isn't perfect because load dictates the breakdown of that skill.
Right.
Right. So in some ways you're getting like none.
Yeah.
And then he's getting full sport practice like any other. This is one of the gripes I've had with powerlifting for so long too, is every other sport has practice.
Right.
To learn the skill. Mm-hmm. And there's thousands, when you played football, there were thousands of reps and drills that you did that when you put them together, ended up with how you would play in the game.
Yep.
But not in powerlifting or strength sports.
Right.
And it's like, this makes no sense. Like, even if it was just very sub-maximal loads, to figure out the best skill for you.
Right.
But what I don't know with the strongman is once you've acquired that skill, because the implements change, so skills are going to change.
Yeah.
Even the deadlift positioning is going to change to where your skill is going to have to change. Right. So it's ever evolving to where I don't know if it's even necessary. Like steps with heavy weight, I get that. But even that will change, right? If the weight's not heavy, the stride's going to be bigger.
Yeah.
So you have all this different skill. How do you manage that?
Well, the way I managed it was...
or how did it evolve for you? Let's do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it evolved just... Okay, well, before I get into that, let me just say this. I do think that people are too scared of overtraining. So this is part of the thought of Marius and why he trained this way is that, okay, if you train some way, let's say you train as hard as you can, and for 1 week you go backwards, or you're not feeling it, whatever. Immediately people, I'm overtrained. This program doesn't work. That's automatically what people say. But if you just push through that week, then you're going to get better. So it's like, okay, it's all right. Maybe it's a little overtraining, but then you'll figure it out, and then you'll adjust, you'll adapt.
Yeah.
So the key is to find out the difference between adaptation and progression, because they're not the same thing. Because you can adapt, your body will adapt. Whatever you throw at it, it's going to over time adapt. But it's a matter of what's going to make the most progression. If you're trying to be the best at your sport, it's finding the line for you that where am I going to adapt, but also progress the most.
Yes.
So maybe I can do squats every day. Maybe I can work up to that. Is that going to be the most beneficial though? So what you have to do, like in Strongman, eventually I was like, you know what? Okay, we're doing... there's, like you said, it could change. You have explosive stuff over here. You have reps over here. You got to carry weights over here. Okay, let's break this down. So what are the most seen events in a strongman show? Even though it changes, the 5 most seen are stones. That's in almost every contest. Some kind of overhead press, farmer's walk, yoke, and deadlift. So those are going to be in any, just about, if you're strong on those, you're going to be a good strongman across, you know what I mean? So it's okay. All right. Well, most guys, they have strongman events. They can't train. They don't necessarily train overhead on a event day, because that they do separate. They got to train, your triceps and your chest, all that stuff. So you put that as its own day. It's almost the most important event in strongman. People are going to argue with me and say back strength or legs. I'm not talking about strength. I'm talking about just events, numbers wise, percentage wise. Overhead press sometimes is in a contest twice. So at the Arnold, if they have 5 events, 2 of the 5 events are an overhead press. Anyway, so you give it its own day. But then you have a deadlift day. Okay, you got to train back and all that. So you have to give that its own day. On the event days, you have to, it's like we were talking about, instead of just loading it up like we used to do, give a day where you're doing lighter stuff faster. You can blast out the sets if you want, have a speed day on that. And a lot of guys, when I started, since we were making it up, we're doing a hybrid kind of West Side training. Mm-hmm. But I realized it didn't really work for Strongman because there's so much repetition work in Strongman that even though West Side has repetition, it's for the assistance work for the most part. But our main events are repetition work. So, I mean, if you're doing an overhead, you're so many times going to have reps. Deadlift, you're going to have reps. Anyway. So, in the Strongman, you have to have explosive strength, repetition strength, and maximum strength, as well as functional moving with stuff. So you got to find a way to put them all together, and that was the puzzle. And it's just years of trial and error, seeing what worked. It's like, okay, he used a West Side type split, but he did pretty good, but could have done better. What can we do over here? How can we make it better for Strong? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it just came together that way. Sorry. Beard hair is getting but it came together through figuring out how can I recover while getting everything trained. It's like, well, if we have all explosive, why not take a day to do it lighter? Why not take a day to do some speed? So I just started rotating things in and out of different modes of training. Mm-hmm. And of course, like I said, learned from West Side, learned from Marius, took a little bit of here, a little bit of there, and just boom, here it is. So it's, for me, it just came that way, just trial and error. Honestly, 10, 15 years of training.
I want to circle back to the progression and adaptation, because I don't want that just to be like a 1 minute segment, in this, because that's huge. Because you can probably, as when you're training with Travis, I mean, you can train your adaptation and work capacity to ridiculous amounts, right. Well in excess of what the sport requires.
Sure.
Right? But that's not progression.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a distinct difference between those two that I don't think a lot of people really understand.
Right.
Right. And because when I was at Westside, Louis had the big thing of increasing work capacity. And I get that. Right. But to what point?
Sure.
Because we can just keep doing this. Like I can be dragging a sled for fucking 10 hours a week. And is that going to have is it going to lead to any progression?
Right.
At some point, no. Yeah. It's just going to be more adaptation for what?
Right.
And it's different with all sports. It's different with each individual and all those different things, but it is separate. So at what point in your career did you begin to think that way? Because that changes everything at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say I was always thinking it, but didn't quite know how to implement what would be like at the beginning. Okay, Travis seems to be progressing, so he loads up a yoke and does this and goes out there, whatever. Then I'll do that, or Jim Glassman over here seems wise, so, follow him. So I was just trying, like I said, because it was trial and error. But it's like you said, you can work up to whatever your body will adapt, but are you going? So like, I love training. I could train 3 times a day. Like I could just go but at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, am I doing this just to train? Or am I doing this to actually win? So yeah, you have to make that. And so there's a million factors too with each individual, because if you take someone like Marius, and for the younger guys, this is Marius Pudzianowski, 5-time world's strongest man, now doing MMA. But he was ripped to the bone. But, he also had the advantage of, okay, he could go get a massage in the middle of the day. He could go into a cryotherapy, so he could treat it like a job.
Yeah,
he could do it professionally. He could do whatever, and so he was stretching. That's all he did, and so he did have that ability too. So it is a little bit of person specific, but there is going to have to be some trial and error to where you say, okay, I'm going to push it here, and then maybe wait and see. Give it a 2 or 3 weeks before throwing in and saying I'm overtraining. This program isn't right or whatever, and then keep pushing through and see if you progress, rather than just abandoning it altogether.
Well, with the active recovery, I always kind of saw that as it's like a sign, right? Now, outside of a peaking period, 3 or 4 weeks out, where you're gonna the healthiest person always wins, but nobody goes in 100% healthy.
Sure.
Right. That's just the nature of these sports. Where if I had to start using active recovery, it was kind of earlier than that. Then it was kind of like, oh, warning sign, maybe my training's a little fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Because I should be adapting, and recovering from what I'm doing, unless I did something stupid, which happens. They're calculated risks that you make. Or then that comes in. Where with the guys that I would see that always had it in, then there's nothing to go to when you're in that peak time and the wear and tear does start to accumulate, because it's already in. You get what I'm saying? It's like, this is like a golden ticket to be able to help.
Right.
But if you have to use that for the normal training, then, and now I'm sure with him, there were layers. Like this is the normal training layer, then here's, the next layer, and we'll kind of avoid that. But the reason I put that out is we've seen that go through phases. Where it gets super popular, then not popular, then super popular. It trends, just with new modalities and so forth. But I don't think people really understand what it's for. They'll just throw it in because they see somebody else is doing it.
Right.
And don't,
Well, to that point, a lot of people in the international athletes, I noticed that those strongmen, they tend to do way, 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 way more active recovery. They're never just resting. Even on their off day, they're doing something, going for a walk. Even Zydrunas would hike up hills or do whatever. And so in America, we have a tendency to just rest. And I think for powerlifting, that may actually be a better route. Like, I think
we're talking two different things, because one, we probably need to define active recovery a little bit more, because the things that you're talking about, just circulation, which is going to help you recover.
Yeah.
Right. Where when it's more of,
are you talking
physiotherapy, all the other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. But the off days, as you get older, become really kind of detrimental.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're not recovering the same, and you need that circulation.
Right.
And powerlifters the same.
Yeah.
Because probably more so because the conditioning's so bad. That if they just walked for 10 minutes, on their off days, they'd be surprised at how much better they'd recover.
We always think you're going to lose gains. Always. Yeah. You're always worried. If I go for this, it is. You're like, if I go for this 10-minute walk, I might lose calories. Or I read somewhere that's cardio that's going to make me go backwards. It doesn't. Anytime I've ever added anything, I always got better. I always felt better. Talk about like work capacity, and like you were saying, all of my lifts would go up, all of my workouts felt better. It never does anything to take away. It only ever adds.
Well, I think it's how people will throw it in.
Sure.
Like some people will throw in, hard trail rucking for 45 minutes when they haven't done anything.
Right. Yeah.
Well, now you got to recover from that.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of just starting kind of light.
Right.